My life, what were you given for?
Тема
The
наша
topic,
обозначена не
our
кем-нибудь,
topic
не
was
мной,
defined not
конечно, а
by
Александром
me, of
Сергеевичем
course, but
Пушкиным,
by
с
Alexander
которым,
Sergeyevich
кажется, мы
Pushkin,
все знакомимся
whom
с
we
самых
know
начальных
from the
лет
very
нашего
beginning of our
обучения.
studies.
Вы обратили внимание,
Did you pay
когда он
attention
написал
when he
это, что
wrote
это
this?
такое за строки?
What are
В
these
чем
lines
дело?
about?
Чувствуете,
Do you feel
как его душа в
how
каком
his
состоянии
soul,
находилась?
what was the state
Дар,
of his
кажется,
soul?
жизнь разве не дар?
The
И в
life
то же
is a
время, что
gift,
пишет?
but what
Дар
does he
напрасный,
write?
дар
A vain
случайный.
gift,
Ах,
a
родился
random
человек.
gift. Yes, a person was
Жизнь,
born.
зачем ты мне дана?
Life, what were you given for?
Как-нибудь,
Please
я
keep the
боюсь,
microphone closer.
но я же могу
But
откусить.
I can bite it off
Нет, если очень близко.
if I keep it too
Это
close.
опасно
This is
будет.
dangerous.
Я всегда очень боюсь, когда мне
I'm
так близко
always
микрофон
very
подставляют.
afraid of the microphone
И
being too
предупреждаю.
close, and I warn.
Действительно,
Really?
он поставил
He
вопрос,
asked a
над
question,
которым не только он думал,
and
а мне
not
кажется,
just
над
he
этим
thought about
вопросом,
it,
в конце
but this
концов,
question has been asked
думает
by
каждый человек. Многие из людей
everybody.
задумываются очень рано.
Many of people think about it at the early age, and the others keep living and never think of it.
Знаете, есть два типа
There are
людей.
two types of people.
Причем они очень интересно
They
распределяются
are very
по
interestingly
этим
divided into
двум
these
группам.
two
Представьте
groups.
себе такую ситуацию.
Imagine the situation.
Корабль,
A ship
у которого днище, пробой.
has a hole in the bottom.
Все узнают об этом.
Everybody finds out about it.
Что делать?
What should we do?
И вот сейчас я уверен, что
And I'm sure
99%
that
дадут этот ответ.
99% will answer me.
Уверен.
I'm sure
Скажут, надо
they will
спасаться.
say, we should get
Ой, как
saved.
неразумно.
Oh, it is so
Что вы?
unwise on your part.
Спасаться.
Get
Нет.
saved? No.
Пока корабль тонет,
While the
он
ship
тонет
is
не очень
sinking,
быстро,
it takes
пробои
time,
очень
of course,
небольшие.
the holes are not so large.
А в это время, пока мы находились
Meanwhile,
на корабле, мы видели,
we saw
как у меня каюта
that
плохенькая,
my
а у него
cabin is not so
У меня
good
мало в
and
каюте, а
his
у того
one is
много.
better.
А вот
He
там
has a lot
какие-то
in his cabin and I don't
драгоценности,
have so
всевозможные
much, and there
Там
are
злато и серебро и
many
камни.
things in his
Оказывается,
cabin,
вот что
gold,
происходит.
silver, jewelry. Here what's
Происходит
happening.
удивительная вещь.
It's an amazing thing.
Вместо того,
Instead
чтобы начать, кажется, искать
of
свет спасения,
looking for means of
начинается
salvation,
воровство,
there
грабеж
starts
и
stealing
разбой.
and robbery.
Начинаем
We start
ходить по другим каютам.
going
И
to
этим именно
other
заниматься.
cabins and doing this.
Дар напрасный, дар
A vain
случайный.
gift, a random
Жизнь.
gift. My
Зачем
life,
ты мне дана?
what were you given for?
Жизнь это что такое?
What
Каждый
is
из нас
life?
рождается. В чем
Everybody
рождается?
is
Каждый из
born
нас знает.
how? We all know.
Каждый знает, что мой
Everybody
корабль
knows that
плохой.
my ship is not so
Я
good.
точно знаю,
I'm
что мой
sure
корабль
that
потонет.
my ship
Так
will
же, как
sink
тонут и корабли всех
in the
других
same
людей.
way
То
as
есть
the ship
жизнь
of all the
человеческая.
people sink.
Нет бессмертных на
There
земле.
are no immortal
Это
people on
уделается
earth,
всем.
and it
Причем,
will happen
когда
to
этот корабль
everybody.
перевернется,
And when this ship
я не
turns
знаю.
over, I don't know.
У одних в ранней юности,
With some people
другие
it
доживают,
happens
может
in
быть, и
early
долго,
youth, and
но дело не
some
в
keep
этом
living,
сколько.
but it
Дело
doesn't
в
matter
другом, что
how
никто не
long.
знает, когда
Nobody
корабль
knows
перевернется, в какой
when
момент.
this ship will
Мы не
turn
видим, не
over.
знаем этого.
We do not know this.
И вот перед лицом
And in
этой
face
совершенно
of
очевидной
this
реальности,
evident
совершенно
reality,
очевидной, ведь
absolutely
немного ума
evident
надо, чтобы
reality, we shouldn't be
понять,
so
что
smart
каждый
to
человек
understand
смертен,
that everybody
и
is
что
mortal.
этот дар,
And this gift,
я не знаю, зачем он
I don't
дан,
know what I have it
и
for.
он требует ответа,
And
этот вопрос.
this
Требует
question
ответа.
requires an answer.
Так, и вот мы видим
And
два
we see
типа
two
людей.
types of people.
Для одних людей
For some people,
не существует никакого здесь вопроса.
there is no question at
Как
all.
живется, так и живется.
They live the life the way it goes.
Даже не думает человек,
A
зачем он
person
живет.
doesn't even think what they
То
are
есть
living
ведет
for.
растительно-животный образ
They
жизни.
lead a
Ну,
plant
связанный
and
с какими-то
animal
еще
way of life,
эстетическими моментами,
plus some aesthetic
конечно.
moments, of course.
Растительно-животный
But
мир.
like a plant
Живет
or an
только
animal,
вот
they
этим и
are
всё.
living
Этим
here in
горизонтальным
this
способом
horizontal
существования.
way of
И не
existence,
думают ни о
and they do
смысле
not think
жизни,
about the sense of
тем
life.
более не возникают
And of course,
вопросы,
they have no
которыми жило все
questions
человечество, всю
that all the
историю, все те, кто
mankind has been
занимается
asking
на
itself
философской
through throughout the history from times immemorial. We all know this. Those who studied in philosophy faculties, and not just these people, know that the question of the sense of existence has always been there, and different philosophic systems have been trying to solve it in different ways. Please take a look at the Russian, European, ancient Greek, Hindu philosophy, and we see different options. What are they? Mostly they are two. One option that was present throughout the history of the mankind, and I will tell you why. How we found out about this. One option is that nobody ever doubted that a person as a being doesn't just have this short moment of life that is ongoing in this body. Nobody could ever believe that the personality could be destroyed with the bodily death. Throughout the history, all the mankind believed in God. Not a single tribe was ever found that was atheistic. Many interesting historians of religion, philosophers, and other specialists speak of it. Not a single tribe was ever found that was atheistic. Some people thought they were not very smart, they couldn't explain some natural patterns. That's in this connection, I often remember the case when the academic Pavlov was crossed himself in front of the church, and there was a sailor who thought of him, oh, how he is not clever. Never did the mankind doubt that the personality is indestructible. They tried to understand this, to realize it. They made some special systems of religious life, systems of thought. This was the kind the mankind lived. We can even say that the religious life has never stopped, and it hasn't stopped yet. And even now, even according to any statistics, more than half of the mankind lives with the religious idea. The sense of life is solved in the following way. There is the eternal existence of a person. The personality is indestructible. There is moral responsibility and accountancy for my earthly life, where I am free in front of good and evil. I am free here. I can live, think, feel, speak, and, as long as it's possible, act in the way I think is good. I don't see the eternity here. I see neither God nor devil here, neither paradise nor hell. I am free. But frankly speaking, in my soul, something tells me something. There is a conscience. There are some moral feelings. And they remind me of something all the time. But this type of people, we can even call it the type of people who cannot calm down without having solved the issue of the sense of personal life. We see so many amazing people, in our culture, of our thought, who couldn't calm down till they answered the question asked by Alexander Pushkin. As an example, I can tell you about Dostoevsky, who said, he wrote about himself. He wrote that my doubts, really, if there is something or if there is nothing, they went through the crucible. My belief, my faith went through the crucible. I don't believe as a boy. It would be funny to speak of Dostoevsky, that he could believe as a child. take a look at how so many different people went looking for the truth. They were at different educational, social levels. We can understand them very well. Of course, if there is the eternality and God, and the personality is indestructible, I can understand why we should be good, what is good and what is evil. If they objectively exist, or maybe it just seems to me, I understand the sense of all my activities, work, everything I do, the sense of life in general. Another category of people, as I already mentioned, they do not care about it. And it's so sad that starting especially from the second half of the 18th century, when there were French enlighteners who were very active, and the Enlightenment, epoch of Enlightenment came, and these people were not scientists of the natural science, they were just philosophers, and they told, there is no God, and not only God, but many other things that it is ridiculous to speak of them now. They said there that Jesus Christ never ever existed, that it is a myth, and the greatest historians of the past, as Tacit, Iosif Flavi, Pliny the Junior, those people who wrote about the events of those times, not to mention the authors of the New Testament. I just speak of the historians who hated Christianity. They wrote about Jesus Christ as of a real personality, human being, but they were called enlighters, and they spoke of Christ as of a myth, and it was not just something that happened. They had a task of a huge task. If there is no God, if personality exists just for a short while, for a short lapse of time, the personality lives just when they live on earth within the body, and then everything comes to an end, then what is the sense of life? Just to grab all you can grab here until it's too late. He grabs, and tomorrow he dies, he gets something, and then he's in prison. Today he's a president, tomorrow he is nobody. Just take a look at how everything turns over. Should we be so smart to understand that if indeed the personality has no eternal existence, what our values turn into, our moral values, aesthetic values as such. And in this connection, a very serious question was asked first by the enlighters, who were not the natural scientists. There was a very weird question that has never ever existed: the science against religion. They knew perfectly well that all the medieval scientists were monks, Catholic monks, the clergy. They created the science, they argued, and even when Bruno was set on fire, it wasn't for his scientific ideas, but because he claimed himself to be the Son of God, because he as a lot of other people were in conflict from the official point of view of those scientists who were protected by the official Catholic authorities. But the monks continued to move on the science. They were the members of the same church. It never existed, and they claimed science was against nature. And this argument turned out to be strong. What do I mean? It was very influential, and we see how it spread throughout Europe. And when it came to Russia, from 1917, it was announced solemnly that this viewpoint, atheism, is the scientific viewpoint. This is just ridiculous, that because from the viewpoint of science, our human knowledge at any moment of the historic existence are just a drop in the ocean of unknown, just a single drop. We also have to set an example. If I come and get just a cup of water from ocean, look into it and say, oh, it's ridiculous, not a single whale in this cup, not a single fish, let alone a whale. Our scientific knowledge is just a drop in the ocean of unknown. How can we make any conclusions about existence or non-existence of God? If we come at university in one room and see there is no one, and we say there is not a single person at this university, but maybe you should go into a different room and see 15,000 people at university, the science can't even say that there is no God, even if there was no God. Why? Because based on this drop of knowledge, I cannot judge on the contents of all the huge ocean that has no end. Is it so difficult to understand? Anyway, with the great insistence, this was pushed on. It is amazing. And in this way, implantation. And what did it come to? At Soviet times, maybe you don't remember. Our generation does remember that even at hospitals it was written, medicine is against religion. How? In a very simple way. They open the skull of a person and find no soul in there. Once there was a small group that came to our monastery at Soviet times, and they started laughing. Who saw God? And one of our students answered to the group of people, who saw God? He said, did you see your own mind? Everybody burst out laughing. If you didn't see it, consequently, there is no mind in your head. So the viewpoint that denies the existence of God doesn't answer one question. What should an educated person do? An educated person, I underline this, in order to make sure there is no God. What should we do to make sure there is God? Oh, the Church speaks on it all the time. So many things have been written and preached about it. There are many arguments in favor of God's existence. These arguments are scientific. And how can you answer the question, what should I do to make sure there is no God? I remember this question was asked to the head of the Institute of Scientific Atheism. The head of this institute came to our Theologian Academy, and I asked him to help me answer this question. I asked him this question, and I said, I can't answer this question. Could you please help me answer it? What should we do to make sure there is no God? Indeed, how can we make sure that in the nearest forest there is no wolf? We should search. Should we do this? Yes. Did we search? Yes. Did we find? No. Oh, there is a cunning animal. Maybe it hid even in this small sphere. And when we talk about the existence in general, about the space, the universe, can the science tell anything? The most it can say, I don't know. But many scientists of the past and present came to the faith in existence of God, and these convictions of theirs were based on the scientific fundament. Being our head of the Institute of a Brain, she claimed that having researched such an amazing organ as a brain of a human being, she no longer could imagine that this organ was created without the interference of the higher intelligence, because this organ is unbelievable regarding its capacities, its properties. So many scientists became religious, both in past and in present. Many clergy were scientists. Let's take an example of Voina Yasenetsky, a famous surgeon who received Stalin's prize at Soviet times. He became a bishop of the Crimea. Lucas Florensky is a universal scientist, a person who has universal knowledge, unbelievable scientist. Mendel, of course, at Soviet times, Mendelism was some negative naming of this direction. As many as you wish. There are many people who showed that their religious convictions and their scientific viewpoint couldn't be contradicted to religion. These are two different areas. We cannot say that as a kilometer is contradictory to a kilogram. It is ridiculous. So religion takes care of the soul. It touches heart of a person, not an organ. But when I say heart, I mean soul of a human being. It touches the life of a soul, but not the outer part of a life. And science takes care of this matter, and these are two different areas and two different ways of cognition. From 1990 in Dubno, there is an annual conference, Science, Philosophy, Religion. We can also find there scientists of different directions, physicians, biologists, different people. There are the greatest philosophers, theologians of Russia, and every year they meet and discuss different topics where we check each other if there is any conflict between the areas, or on the contrary, it turns out that every sphere brings something into the understanding of a human being as such. And one of the most important questions that were discussed at one of this conference and that deserves attention is we see what scientific researchers come to when they're unlimited, absolutely unlimited penetration into the matter and the
что она из себя представляет,
nuclear power was discovered, and we know what it
знаем не
is.
только о положительной стороне,
It doesn't just have a positive side, it also has the negative usage
Смотрите, что теперь
of
в
this
биологии,
powerful
когда уже наука
energy.
забирается в
Let's
геном
take a
человека,
look at biology.
расшифровывает один за другим
Science
гены
gets
человека,
into the
к
genome
чему мы
of a
сейчас
human
приходим.
being and
А как
deciphers
мы
them
приходим
one
к
by
такому
one. What
состоянию,
do we
когда
come to? We come to the state when
возможно, скоро
it is
будет, по крайней мере,
possible,
возможно,
or it will soon be
создание
possible,
человека
to
с
create a
заданными
human
свойствами.
being
То
with
есть он будет не
the
просто тем,
set
каким
properties.
всегда, а
The person will
заданными,
not
по крайней
get
мере,
born
ярко
as usual,
выраженными заданными
but there will be
свойствами.
set
Он
properties,
будет
and
исполнитель
they
вот этой
will be
конкретной
evident.
функции.
There will be a function of a
Наконец,
human being,
вообще уже
and in
возможно
the long
создание,
run
знаете,
it will be
такого
possible to
синтеза,
create
да, киборга, когда
some
трудно уже понять,
cyborg,
человек это
and it
или
will be difficult to
машина.
understand whether it is a man
Проникновение
or a
в
machine.
мир,
So the
оказывается,
penetration
человеческой психики,
into the world of
человеческого
psychics,
существа, к чему
into the
ведет?
human essence,
Мы
what does
ставим
it
этот
lead to?
вопрос.
We
Кстати,
ask this
Как
question:
быть?
what should we do?
Возможно ли такое
Is it
безграничное исследование?
possible?
И вот
Such
здесь
unlimited
наблюдаем
researches, are they possible? And here
противостояние.
we see the contradiction.
Ученые говорят,
The
нельзя
scientists
ни в
say
чем ограничивать.
there can be
Никакие
no
исследования.
limits
Мы говорим, но
to
факты.
researches, but we say there are facts.
Вам не кажется,
Don't you think
что если бы
that
тот
if
человек, ну это, видимо, Оппенгеймер, кажется, там своей группой,
it seems to me it
в
was
конце концов, создали
Oppenheimer
атомную
who
бомбу.
created the nuclear
Если
bomb,
бы этот
if
человек, который открыл
this person
возможности,
who
разрушительные силы
discovered
ядра,
the opportunities of the
если бы он был
destructible force
действительно человек
of the
высшей
nuclear
степени
power,
нравственно
if he
ответственный,
was a morally responsible
не
person,
сжег ли бы он это
wouldn't he have
свое
burned
открытие,
his discovery?
прекрасно понимая,
He
что
understood
всегда
perfectly well
всегда
that
найдутся
there
те, которые
always will
используют
be
эту
people who
энергию,
will use this
это во
energy
зло, а не на добро.
for evil.
То же самое происходит в области биологии.
The same
Есть громадные опасности
when we
сейчас,
come to
перед которыми
biology, there is a great
стоит
danger
человечество.
that
Это создание
the
искусственных
mankind
людей.
faces.
Даже
Artificial
представить не
people,
можем, что
we
это
even can't
произойдет.
imagine what will
Так вот,
happen.
религия. И под
Religion,
религией я разумею,
and when I
извините,
say
только
religion, I
христианство,
understand
православное
Christianity
христианство.
only,
Это прежде
the
всего.
Orthodox Christianity first of all.
Необходимы
It says
нравственные ограничения в
the
научной
moral
деятельности.
limitations in the
Если не
scientific
будет безудержный,
activity are essential,
безудержный процесс, не
because
ограниченный
if
никакими
the
рамками,
process
может
is
привести к самым
unlimited
печальным
in any
последствиям
way, the
человечества.
consequences can be severe
И мы видим, к чему
for the
приводит
mankind,
развитие
and we see these
научно-технического
consequences
прогресса.
of
Вы
the
уже видите
scientific and
сейчас,
technical
вы же
progress.
все
We already
слышите,
see,
читаете и
you
видите,
all see,
что
watch,
основным,
read
так сказать,
that
ну, что ли, не моментом уже,
the main
я бы сказал, таким основным
the
явлением,
main
которое
tendency
угрожает уже жизни
that
во всем
threatens life on
мире,
earth
что является
is
экологический кризис.
ecological crisis.
Знаете, наступление пустынь
So
идет
deserts
катастрофической скоростью.
are coming and
Загрязнение
spreading,
воздуха,
waters are getting
уничтожение
dirty,
лесов, это
deforestation,
развитие химических
chemical
химии
pollution,
различных и всего того, что она создает. Все же мы
chemical
отравляем
products.
сами себя.
We are poisoning
Человечество
ourselves.
создало
The
монстра,
mankind
с которым
created a
теперь мы уже не
monster
можем справиться.
that we can't deal with.
Почему?
Why?
Что произошло?
What happened?
Как? Ведь хотели же,
How?
кажется, благо.
We
Благо.
wanted to
Да,
create
это
something
верно.
good.
А к чему же
So,
мы пришли?
what did we come to?
Кризис
Crisis.
огромными буквами
Crisis in capital letters.
стоит буквально перед сознанием.
We
Кризис,
face it,
который
the
ничем уже
crisis
не устранить.
that
Уже человек
can't
не
be
может
dealt with.
справиться
Human
этим
being
монстром,
can't cope with this monster
научно-техническим
of this
монстром,
scientific and
которого
technical
породил
monster
сам же
that
этот
was
человек.
born by the
Мы не можем уже
mankind.
теперь обойтись без
There's
всего
nothing we
этого.
can do. We
Мы
can't live
достигли такой
without all of
степени,
it.
слово дальше, развитие,
We reach such a
развитие,
level of development,
благополучие,
progress,
да?
well-being.
Стоит только свет
What if the
электричества
electricity
сейчас прекратить,
gets cut off? And what will our life and well-being turn into? Do you remember the great story, fact, maybe myth, it doesn't really matter, about Damocles' sword? When this poor Damocles envied the king, his power, his glory, and his riches. This king was very smart, and once he set Damocles on his throne, and above him, on a fine thread, he hung a sword above his neck. And it was a great feast, and Damocles was horrified. He sweat and got pale, and the king asked, "What's up?" Of course, what's up, when at any moment this fine thread can just tear off and Damocles can die. This is a great thought. This great thought is amazingly expressed in this myth. Of course, every person is beneath this Damocles sword. Nobody knows when this fine thread will tear off. Not so long ago I received a call from my 42-year-old acquaintance. She was happy and she said, suddenly cancer was discovered in me, and it was a disaster for her. Is it so difficult to understand? If we are smart, we should think about it. If we do not think, then who are we? We talk about it at the conference Science, Religion, Philosophy. In particular, we speak of the scientific and progress, and we ask, where is it going? Not so long ago, in 1999, a great book was published by academic Moiseev, Should or Not the Mankind Exist? Is it meant to keep existing? The world disaster can happen with at such speed that no technical means will help us to prevent it. And this disaster can happen not somewhere in some indefinite future. No, he writes in the book, but maybe in the middle of the 21st century. Moiseev is one of the largest scientists of our Soviet and Russian science. He has a lot of discoveries, researches, great works. He was not a religious man. I wanted to get acquainted, but I didn't have time. So he wasn't religious, he was not a theologian, he wasn't a religious activist who wanted to frighten some poor people. No, he was a sober scientist who turned with these words to all the world community. He turned with these words, shouldn't we think about it? A vain, random gift. My life, what were you given for? And why were you condemned for the end? This is the difference between a human being and an animal, that a human being can think. They say it's easier to dream, but thinking is hard. It is true. But one of the most horrible diseases of our life is nothing else but our tendency to dream. We dream of some high, great, sunny and beautiful events of life which have not come yet, and we stop thinking. This is terrible. the person is aimed at thinking and to be reasonable, to understand what we are doing, what we live for, what do we want. When we are told there is no soul, there is no God, and they say that we are just working for the benefit, for the future generation, these are empty words. Who thinks about the future generations to come? How many people think of it? And in particular, when the question is such that the human existence can stop in general, so academic Moiseyev says that the mankind will come to an end as a biological species, and maybe this will help in the middle of the 21st century. Our dreams are something horrible because we forget about the real earthly problems. One of them is the question, what we live for. The Orthodox religion that has existed in our country for thousands of years, it's the second thousand of years now, this is something that deserves to be looked at. Were all of our ancestors crazy? Was Lomonosov such an idiot when he wrote that science and Bible, that people try to make them contradict each other, and they do it on purpose? Is orthodoxy nothing? What does it teach? What does it urge us to do? What are the values? Orthodoxy doesn't say don't eat, don't drink, don't get married. Nothing of the kind. Eat, drink, and get married. But live according to your conscience. Why? Because there is God. There is eternal life, there is moral responsibility, and you will have to be accounted for all your actions on earth. Orthodoxy says that with the bodily death, all the moral and immoral of a person doesn't get distracted, because the soul consists of all of it. And then the responsibility comes. Which responsibility? Not in a way that God will call you and will try to put you in hell or somewhere. No, conscience which awakens. Here we can just forget about it, but there conscience gets opened, all that we did, and it opens in front of whom? In front of everybody. Who wants this? Who wants to face everybody with all our ideas, lies, deceptions? Who wants this? This is the most serious question of all. Every person for this reason should think about the sense of their life and what can wait for me after my life. There are two viewpoints. There is God, eternity and sense, or there is nothing. No God, no eternity, no soul, and I'm an animal. And I want to say to our young listeners that for 70 years they have tried to persuade us that we are monkeys with computers in our heads. What does religion give? Here I brought a letter by Leo Tolstoy. It's more kind of a note. After his visit to the Optin monastery, there was a conflict with him. What he says, in Optin monastery, for over 30 years, there was a paralyzed monk who could only move his left hand. The doctor said that he suffered a lot, but he not just didn't ever complain of his position, but he always prayed, smiled, and thanked God for his spark of life that was inside him. A lot of thousands of people visited him, and it's hard to imagine the good that was spread throughout the world by this person who couldn't move, by this inactive person. I think this person brought more good to the world than thousands and thousands of healthy people imagining that in different institutions they serve to the world. This was written by Leo Tolstoy. And he had a conflict with the Russian Orthodox Church, but in his own manner he believed in God. Just take a look what he wrote about the meaning of the Orthodox faith, not just for a person themselves, but for the whole society. He did more, as he writes. I think this person brought more good to the world than thousands and thousands of officials. This notion of his just means a lot. Why? If it was written by someone, some bishop, clergyman, we could say that he is just praising his church. But Leo Tolstoy, and it's not just about him. This is a fact. If a person is saint, holy, there is a special atmosphere. It's not for nothing that lots of pilgrims went to holy people. Why? Because they received some spiritual energy, and thanks to it, people became better. We all want to make world better, but we should make ourselves better. There is no other way. The Christianity says to us, please try to become a little bit better. How? What is good? Gospel says what it is. Gospel. Don't look down at other people. Don't be proud. Don't be vain. Wish all the best to anybody. Don't harm other people. You shouldn't wish anything bad to anyone. Do act in the same way as you wish others to act. And it's not so much. Just if only people accepted these principles, what the society would be like. And if the society was like this, what is society? It is the solution from which the crystals appear. And what are these crystals? The authorities. They do not come from nowhere. The general state of the society creates the solution from where these people appear. They receive higher positions, and in such a way the well-being of the society is getting organized, all our social life is getting organized. Our modern writer Michael Antonov wrote, a person who doesn't need any more of the material goods, but he doesn't have the need for moral development. This is a dangerous person. This is so true. The person who takes care only of the material side of life and he doesn't think about his spiritual side is a scary person. He sets an example of Rasputin. His story fire.
Человек, у которого нет
We see that
никаких
a
нравственных
person
принципов,
who
кроме
has no
одного,
moral principles but one,
материальной потребности,
his
он действительно
material
становится страшным.
needs. This is a dangerous
Превращается в
person.
действительно в
He
чудовище,
turns into a
который может
monster
совершить все,
who
что
can do
угодно.
anything.
Это идея,
This
это, я бы
idea,
сказал,
this thought
мысль о том, что человек должен жить
that a
не только
person
для
should
тела,
live not just for
а
the
должен
body,
жить, воспитывая свою
but he
душу,
should
борясь с теми злыми
upbring his soul. He should fight
импульсами, если
against the
хотите, эмоциями, которые
evil
возникают в его душе.
emotions that
Это
appear
вещь
in his
чрезвычайно
soul.
важна.
This is an incredibly important
Мы
thought.
должны заботиться и
We
о
should take
внешнем, то есть о
care
внешней стороне.
about the
Но
outer
прекрасно
side
всегда
of our life,
понимая,
of
что
course,
внешнее
but we
есть
should understand
высшее,
that the
а
outer side is
заботиться
not the
должны о
highest
внешнем
one, but
ради
we should take
высшего.
care of the outer side
Помните, Христос
for the
даже
sake
молитву
of the
дал: «Отче наш,
highest.
хлеб наш насущный
Jesus
дашь
Christ
нам
asks for
Не исключает же это
daily
ничего.
bread in his prayer.
Только, пожалуйста,
It
занимайтесь,
is good,
занимайтесь
but
этим хлебом
please,
насущным по
this
совести,
bread should be
по
gained
чистоте своей
according to
души
the
и
conscience,
мыслей, и желаний.
and our souls
И
and the
тогда
wishes
всё и
should
во
be
всем
clear
будет благо.
and pure, and in this
Простите, у меня
case
время
everything
уже
will be
осталось только
well.
10 минут, вы сказали,
I'm sorry,
нет
I just have
вопросов.
10 minutes to go. I said I was told you
Еще
have
один вопрос. Если это
questions.
правда,
So if you have
то
many
в таком
questions
случае
indeed, then
можно будет немножечко поговорить.
we should talk.
Да, конечно.
Can I? Yes. Please tell me. I communicate to many people. I have many friends who do not deny God, but they deny church rituals. How should I talk to them? It is impossible to persuade them. I can't do this. And the other question is, can we pray for people of other convictions, of other faiths, of the religion? And how should I pray for them? I pray for many deceased people, so please.
Мне кажется, что
It seems to me that religion
той исключительной
is
сферой
an
жизнедеятельности человека,
exceptional sphere of a person's
которая
life
требует
that
полной
demands
свободы,
absolute freedom of acceptance,
никакого насилия,
no violence, no
принуждения,
pressure,
ни в коем случае.
no
Если
way.
эти люди добрые,
If these
но
people
которые по
are
каким-то
kind,
причинам
but
не
for some
принимают
reasons they do
всей
not
вот этой, я бы сказал,
accept all
церковной
this
обрядовой жизни,
church ritual
значит,
life, then
еще
obviously it is
Может
too
быть, они
early.
потом и
The time
примут.
has not
Может
yet
быть,
come.
нет.
Maybe they will accept it later on, maybe
Самое
not.
главное, я вам скажу, совесть.
But the main thing is conscience.
Если человек живет по
Conscience.
совести,
If the person
нет никаких
listens to their
сомнений,
conscience, there
что
is
этот
no
человек может
doubt
оказаться ближе
this
к Христу
this
даже,
person can
чем
turn out
бессовестный,
to be
так
closer to
называемый
Christ
христианин.
than
Пожалуйста,
a
запомните
so-called
это.
Christian
От того,
who
что я себе
doesn't
сейчас вот
live
сюда
up to
напишу
his
плакат
faith.
«Я православный»,
Because I can
совсем ничего не
put
значит, что
on
я православный.
a billboard that I am Orthodox,
обманывать
but
и
it means
самого
nothing.
себя, и
I
других.
can lie to
Поэтому
myself, to
еще
other
раз говорю,
people. So
Ну что же, пока не могут. Ну
I
ладно.
repeatedly say,
Говорить
if they're not ready
по-хорошему
yet, it's okay.
можно. Не принимаются. Подождать,
We can
поговорить
tell
о
them.
погоде, о
If they
птичках.
do not agree, we can wait,
Вот так.
talk of
По
weather,
второму вашему
birds,
вопросу,
it's okay.
молиться.
About prayers,
Христос с креста молился
Jesus
за кого?
Christ
За распинателей.
prayed when he was
То есть за
crucified
кого?
for those people who crucified
Антихрист,
him,
который против
those
него.
antichrists who were against him, and he prayed for them. And we ask, can we pray for other people?
Скажите, если даже человек это неверующий,
Even
то с
if this
точки
person
зрения
doesn't
духовной,
believe in God,
он еще что такое?
so
У него недостаток сознания,
from
недостаток понимания,
the spiritual point of view,
внутренняя
he
болезнь.
has some drawback,
Мать о
some
каком
inner
ребенке больше
disease. He
заботится?
doesn't
О здоровом
understand
или о
something.
больном?
But
О больном, конечно.
who a mother
Так
takes
и
more
мы
care of
даже тем
a
больше
healthy
молиться
or an
за
ill
тех, кто
child?
неверует.
Of course, of an ill child.
тех, кто в
So
этих
we should
враг
pray
церкви,
more for those
слышите
people
даже?
who
Уж тем
do
более,
not
говорю,
believe
когда
in
человек
God.
лежит в другой религии,
We should pray more for people of
за
other
всех мы
religions.
должны
We should
молиться.
pray
Ибо
for
основной
everyone,
закон,
because the
который открыло
fundamental
христианство, слышите,
Christian law,
закон бытия,
this is
а не что-нибудь.
the law
Бог
of
есть
essence is
любовь.
that God is
Не
love.
у Бога есть любовь.
It's not
Вы
just
слышите?
God
Не
has
смешивайте.
love.
Не Бог от
These are
существа,
different
у которого есть
things.
любовь.
God
Нет, нет.
is a
А
creature
любовь
who has
основной
love.
закон
No,
человеческого бытия.
love is the fundamental law of the human existence. If you want to be happy, try not to break this law. Try to do everything for everybody as much as it is possible. This is a law. In the same way as you cannot break some physical laws, jumping out of windows, in the same way we cannot break the law of love if we want to be happy. Christianity tells us about this. Christ said that God is love, and God is like a sun who shines not just on righteous people, but it shines for everyone, and it rains for everyone, not just for the righteous people. So Christianity discovered this. All the people thought that God is a king who just gives awards to some people and punishes the rest of them. But this is not true. So God is love, and consequently, love is the main fundamental law of our life. Who wants to be happy should do their best to show love to other people, and not just to our friends. And I can tell even more, if you dislike someone, if he is far away from us in terms of their convictions, we should pay more attention to them. Conscience, doesn't it depend on family and society? If it comes from God, why wasn't it given to everyone from God? We shouldn't confuse two things. The conscious as a fact, this feeling as property. Conscious is a property, everybody has it, but the contents is different. For example, now we have the Lent, and there is a Passion Week of strict fasting of the Lent, and if a Christian goes on Passion Friday to a restaurant and eats a lot of I don't know, veal or something, the Christian will suffer a lot. But if a person doesn't believe in God, they break nothing, they violate nothing if they go to a restaurant on Passion Friday, because the contents of conscience can be different. But it is better for a person to have the most fulfilling conscience possible. So Christianity gives us the elements to fill our conscience and for the person to become pure. How happy we are when we see some amazing person. This is a kind person. He is so good that we are so happy when we talk to this person. We can visit this person. When we see it, we feel it, we understand it. It is just beauty. In Christianity, God is called the primary beauty. He is the source of beauty. Indeed, sanctity, holiness, the pureness of thoughts, intentions makes a person holy, saint. And there is nothing more beautiful in this world. There is nothing more beautiful in the world than a conscious, righteous person. And of course we admire such people. And everybody should strive to this, should aspire to this. Sometimes they say Christianity is something evil, they can do this and that. It is just senseless. Of course you cannot steal, you should share, not steal. Is it so bad? So conscience is a very good thing, and this is a property of a human being, but the contents of a conscience can be different. In some religions, don't go to bed, you went to bed, you should keep a sword under your pillow until you take revenge on someone. You should seek means to take revenge on someone. This is a religious demand. But if this person does something bad to someone, I think this person does not sin when they take revenge. Why? Because they acted according to their conscience. This is an extreme example. But if he kills just because he envies someone or he dislikes someone, this is a sin. A sin is a wound. This is a wound that when a person hurts themselves, God is impassionate. And when I drink hard, who do I harm? When I take drugs, who do I harm? When I steal, and so on. When I hate, doctors say, please, don't just get too overexcited, because it is dangerous for your heart, for your vascular system. So everything that Christianity calls a sin, this is the harm that person causes to themselves. When I judge someone, but by this I hurt myself, he doesn't care that I judge him. But I am infuriated. Who suffers? I do. I envy. Who suffers? I do. He doesn't care, and I suffer. So every sin is a wound, and Christianity warns, don't sin. Why do you hurt yourself? Why do you walk barefoot on broken glass? What are you doing it for? Then you breathe in the polluted air. Why? What are you doing? Here, what is sin? And not just some abstract law. God thought, well, I should ban these creatures on these two-legged creatures. I should ban them from doing this and that. This is ridiculous. So conscience is a great thing. Does a person have a destiny, or do they have a choice? Christianity says that to a huge extent we create our destiny ourselves. We create our destiny ourselves. I shouldn't drink too much. We create our destiny ourselves. They say, don't do it. If you do it, something bad will happen. And they say, leave me alone. And then, what? Oh, yes. To a large extent, we are the creators of our destiny. Let's go into some theologian discussions. To a large extent, we are defined by the natural properties that we are born with. Someone is born greedy or is born a liar. And they ask him, why are you lying? And he says, I can't do otherwise. Is it his destiny? Nobody believes him. At work, he's just fired. So, to a very large extent, we are the creators of our destiny. But to some extent, our destiny is defined by some properties we are born with. Of course, both. We study economics and we see what is happening in society. There are different tendencies. I would like you to answer the following. The proliferation. Who lives well now in Russia? I see that many churches are being built, many monasteries are being built. I don't think it is too bad, but we have a crisis that reminds of itself everywhere, and it is difficult to understand why so many churches are being built in times of crisis. As an economist, and all of you know the following thing: the result is never 100%. Never. So, never. Efficiency is never 100%. It is very different. And in church, the law is the same. So, not everything the church does is perfect. There are always some mistakes. There are some passions, some mistakes, some goals that shouldn't be there. Let's remember what happened in Russia in the end of the 15th century. 1/3 of all Earth belonged. Of all the territory belonged to the monastery. It's absurd. The monks, who should have no properties, had 1/3 of all the territory. And it didn't happen because they were greedy. It happened because every old person who died just bequeathed everything they had to the monastery, for the monastery to pray for them. And for monasteries it is very difficult, because people look at it and they say, what is it? And of course everybody is human, and as a result we see in church history many facts and cases that we can just deeply regret. We shouldn't just be amazed. Nothing is different. On the one hand, we should build churches. People have nowhere to pray. People ask for churches, for a small church at least. This is necessary, yes? On the other hand, sometimes we try to decorate our churches, over-decorate. We should decorate it with gold. I am personally against it. Why should we decorate churches with gold? It should be modest, neat, but it is difficult. The priest thinks I should have a more beautiful church than some other church. There are many young priests, and young priests, they are very much like this. They are very competitive. So what is going on? Just we shouldn't look at church as at something ideal. Ideal holiness never existed in church, because church is a hospital and not a resort. And who do we find at hospital? Healthy people? No. You think a Christian, and he's a Christian and he does this or that. He is at hospital. He uses a crutch. He does whatever he can. This is it. Church is a hospital. Christianity is somewhere people can come and seek for means to get rid of envy. Do you remember Dante? He said that envy was the worst sin ever found in people. How can we get rid of envy? It is so difficult. But church says you should fight, you should keep trying. But for a person who doesn't believe in God, I do steal, so what? I do envy, so what? But a Christian will not say so. You shouldn't hurt yourself, because the result will be disastrous. So the situation is as such. What do you think about Islam.
Недавно я публиковал статью.
Recently, I published an article in a magazine.
Национальный контроль.
National control.
Национальный контроль.
National control.
У меня было большое одно интервью.
I had a large interview, and in 2 magazines they published it. The headline of the first of it is Islam is the closest religion to Christianity. Is the headline of the interview. Islam is the closest religion to Christianity. In Russian Empire, it was such a friendship of Muslim and Christian people, and then the Roman thought divide and have power over, so it was done intentionally, and now it is not so much of a friendship, but when we are together, we are the most powerful, and we should be together. And let's take a look at what is going on in Ukraine. They are trying to divide. So everywhere you see that there is some contradiction being implemented, but there is, you should know there is devil. You can read this interview in the magazine National Control, and you will know the answer to the question.
Как вы относитесь к различным восточным практикам?
Восточным?
Восточным, да, таким как медитация для...
What is your opinion on meditation and Oriental practices?
Мы здесь должны рассмотреть два
We
постановления
should
вопроса.
take into account 2 questions.
Первый вопрос.
The first question
Вопрос,
is the question
можем
if
ли мы,
we can,
имеем ли мы
do we have the
говорить, что какая-то
do we
вот
have
эта
the
или
right
эта
to say
религия
that this or that religion is true?
Первый вопрос.
This is the first question.
Не имею возможности сейчас вам ответить на это.
I cannot answer it right now.
Я только скажу.
I can
Что
just
вот я читаю лекции,
speak on
курс
it in a few words, that I have the whole course of lectures
Сергей Лаврик, там академия у нас.
in our monastery.
Посвященный чему?
The course is
Посвященный изложению объективных, подчеркиваю,
devoted to the objective arguments
свидетельствующих о божественном
in
происхождении
favor
христианства.
of the origin of Christianity, and this origin
Не по каким-то мотивам,
is not
аргументы,
earthly.
которые прямо
Christianity
указывают. Следовательно,
comes
всё,
from God.
разумение источников.
There are objective
Божественное
arguments
происхождение. Если божественное,
that
то по определению
that
божественное,
testify
естественно, значительно.
in favor
Целый курс
of the
лекций.
divine origin of
Так вот,
Christianity. It is the
христианские
whole
святые.
course of lectures, and indeed,
Если вы обратитесь к другим религиям,
if you
увидите
turn to
там
other
ситуацию
religions,
более
you will
сложную.
see a more difficult
Во многих
situation
религиях
there.
вообще
In many
никаких
religions,
нет.
there are no
В
arguments.
частности, если мы
In
касаемся
particular,
восточных-
when we come to some
восточных религий
Oriental religions,
и этого вопроса медитации,
this
то
question
можем
about
сказать,
meditation,
это
we can
просто-
say it
просто
is
некая
simply
практика,
a
которая
practice
сложилась в течение,
that was
так сказать,
formed
многих исторических, может быть, периодов,
throughout
эпох. Это
epochs
практика,
and centuries, a
которую надо
practice
рассматривать так,
which should
с
be
какой
regarded
целью это совершается,
in the following
что
way.
оно дает
What
человеку,
is the
и не
purpose of
уводит ли
it?
его,
What does it give to a
человека,
person? And doesn't it
смысла действительного,
mislead a
реального,
person,
правильного смысла жизни.
mislead it from the real sense of life? Vivekananda, a famous
Ну, я не знаю,
pupil of
кто занимался
Ramakrishna,
этим, может быть, знает, да.
maybe you know,
Знаменитый ученик,
he's a famous
который
one.
ездил по Европе, Соединенные
He
Штаты,
traveled throughout Europe, United States, participated in the world religious congresses.
Он был йог. Это знаменитый йог. Так?
He was a famous, he was
Когда ему еще
yogi.
40 лет не было.
He died having reached
Как
40
говорили
years.
его, так сказать, сподвижники говорили, он не захотел выйти из
His colleagues
состояния
said
самадхи.
he didn't want to come out of the state of samadhi. He didn't want, he couldn't. This meditation is just the beginning, but in the long run, all the Oriental practices lead to reaching the state of ecstasy And ecstasy
он берет все силы человека, аккумулирует в одну точку.
accumulates all the powers of a person into one single point, all the powers, and a person can't last long. Vivekananda passed away. What is the sense of life? And this Oriental practices, what does he speak of? What is the ideal, as they say? They say a person's soul is a kind of a salt doll that in the long run dissolves in the eternal ocean of Brahma. This is the same atheism. There is no personality. Me, I will not exist anymore. I will get dissolved. So what is the sense of it? I will no longer exist. It is interesting for me when I can contemplate something, when I can get the results of my activities. But if I dissolve in an eternal ocean of Brahma, so what is in it for me? So we should be very careful with the meditation. It is something we should not practice. The Orthodox practice is different. We just pray and say the words of Jesus' prayer. We should pray more, many times, but very attentively. And in this case, there will be no negative results. Why does it mean? Why do they say that being a Christian means being a human being in the essential meaning of this word? Let's take a look. All the time, what do the people dream of? What is the ideal? Who is an ideal person? Can you describe? What are the properties of an ideal person? And here it goes. There are some book characters. Idiot by Dostoevsky. They tried to create this person, ideal person. And there are some images, characters. Characters are being created, literature characters, philosophic characters, but Christianity is different. It gives a real character, Jesus Christ, a real ideal person, and it urges people to try to be like Jesus Christ. He is a normal person. If we try to describe it, let's read the Gospel, or maybe Apostle Paul. What is the fruit of the spiritual life? It is joy, patience, mercy, abstinence, meekness, humility. When someone hits me, I shouldn't hit them twice. So these are the properties: honesty, love. There is the 13th chapter of Apostle Paul. He says, there is an anthem of love. If I speak different languages, human and angelic, but I have no love, I am nothing. If I give away all I possess, and I give my body, and it will be burnt, but I have no love, there is no use for me in it. Do you hear? Can you hear it? And so on. Here is the real principle. Here is an ideal person, but to reach this state of love, the correct Christian life is essential. The correct Christian life. What is a correct Christian life? I will say in a few words. We should live according to our conscience, and we shouldn't do to other people what we wouldn't like them to do to us. You haven't said a word about the negative points in religion. Don't you think that religion is more dangerous than atheism because a fanatic is more dangerous than a non-believer? A great question, thank you very much. I will tell you, there is not a single good thing that cannot be spoiled. Fanatism in religion is a terrible thing, is one of the most terrible perversions of religion. It is horrible. There is conviction and there is fanatism. These are two different things. There were people who died for what they believed in, but a fanatic always hates everybody who thinks otherwise than them. Convictions, Christian convictions, are open with love for everybody else, but a Christian fanatic hates everybody who acts or thinks otherwise than themselves, and these perversions are absolutely possible as anywhere else, but we should judge everything according to the aim of it, and Christianity aims at making a person holy and saint. By the way, all the Russian education, approximately up to the 16th century, had an aim to make a person better. Not just to give information, the same thing we can do to a computer, but to make a person better. There was a principle that a good person, you can give them any position, even if there are some ruins, he will make a castle out of it, but a terrible person will make ruins out of a castle. I read in a magazine that businessmen should take into account that people with higher education, according to statistics, violate the rules and the law of the company 10 times more often than those with a secondary education. How should we understand it? I heard a story. One person bought a very expensive car, put on it 3 locks, locked it in a garage, came out in the morning, the garage was locked, he unlocked it and there was no car. And the first thing he was impressed with, not that he lost a car or something, how did they manage to do it technically? Not a single noise. And the garage was locked, and there was no car. So businessmen should pay attention. You see, science is a good thing, but what we can turn it into a means of deception, stealing, robbery, and so on. Religion is the same, of course. Okay? Everybody's tired, right? Okay, thank you for your patience very much. Thank you.